वरदनं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये सरस्वति नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Okay, so we are just looking at the gist of each of the Puranas. The Purana class we were looking at the Brahma Vaivarta Purana in detail, and the other thing we were the Sunday class we are looking at the topic is gist of the Puranas. So just combining so that anyways we have to cover both in both the classes. Okay. So we were looking at Narada Purana. Those who had joined last time you might remember. Now please note one thing. It's not that we have to be told separately about this, but Narada at times in few of our books or so, people show, or you can say maybe in the TV serials, movies, and so on. People portray Narada as a very a comical character or a funny character known for just creating fights between people and so on. That is not at all so. Of course, the nature of to some extent in certain avatara certain stories, because to achieve some purpose Narada does that. Apart from that, Narada is a devarishi and such a great sage, not to be portrayed as a comical character at all. He is the devarishi. Very few rishis who are equal to gods. One is this Narada as a devarishi. Secondly, the greatest devotee of Narayana is Narada, and Puranam itself is named after this sage Narada, not after any other sage. So this itself shows the greatness of Narada. So we have to be very careful when people keep names this and that or portray that. We should not feel that Narada is such a character, a very great rishi who is termed as Devarishi. So last time we were just looking at this Narada Purana, which talked about the story of Markandeya. We also have a separate Purana, Markandeya Purana. Then river Ganga, how she starts flowing from what was the need of river Ganga flowing down to earth, how the ancestors of Rama, Akshvaku Vamsha, Sagara, Bhagirath, and so on. Bhagirath, he requests Ganga to flow down. That's how she gets the name Bhagirath as the daughter of Bhagirath. Then this way Ganga river starts flowing. Now when she starts flowing, obviously when water has to flow, it has to pass through a passage also, otherwise it will flood everywhere, right? So for that reason, someone had to hold the flow of Ganga river. So Shiva, he desired, and he held Ganga in his jata. That's how you can see Ganga on his jata. And then slowly from there, like a small passage, she starts flowing into Bharat Desha. And because she started, now the origin, if you see, though we say it is in Gangotri, still she has come from the Vishnupadi, Vishnupada. So that is from the feet of Lord Vishnu, from the Kamala Charanam of Lord Vishnu, she starts flowing. So this significance of Ganga is mentioned here. Then you also have the story of Vamanavatar, Vamanavatar story, wherein Vamana teaches a lesson. He brings down the pride of Mahabali, and one of those, you can say, avatars, which wherein Vishnu. Now there are two, three avatars. One is the Buddha avatara, and second is this Vamana avatara, wherein always a lesson is shown that always you don't have to fight, or you don't have to show, you have to take some action against someone also. Maybe in a very nice way, or you can say in a very smart way also, we can handle situations. Like in the case of Vamana, Bali was not bad. Maybe you can compare Bali to all of us today. Now here, if you see, we have some good things, we have some bad things in us. But that doesn't mean that even if we are bad also, usually we don't go maybe to take a weapon or something, go about killing and murdering people. We don't go to that extent. But still, there are certain evil things that are there in us. Maybe little pride comes, ego comes, arrogance. Maybe we have some arguments with people. So we are not 100% perfect. But at the same time, when we talk about bad things, we don't end up doing crimes also, right? So we are like at the mediocre level. So at times what happens is, maybe now even in a day also, morning time maybe everything is going about fine, but maybe afternoon you have an argument with someone, evening you realize, oh, I made a mistake, maybe what I did was little wrong, I argued more, we realize that. So that's when we have committed some mistake, but we also realize that maybe we ask for forgiveness, whatever it is. So this was the same with Mahabali, wherein Vamana decided to show Mahabali. So it's not that Mahabali is wrong also, but then little, just as we also get distracted, human beings are distracted, similarly Mahabali also gets distracted during his life. That's when pride starts, you can say, puffing in him. He says, ask anything, I'll bless you with whatever you ask. Vamana very smartly asked for 3 pieces of land. He said, wherever I keep my feet, that belongs to me. One was on Bhuloka, one was on Swargaloka. Third, nothing is left. He took the entire earth, he took the entire heaven. What is left? Entire sky, you can say. Bali, he realized his mistake. He bowed down, said, keep the feet on Trivikrama avatar. So that's when he said, keep the third foot on my head only. That is, I surrender completely to you. And that's when Vamana realized that Bali had accepted his mistake, Vamana blesses him with the best. He makes him the king of Sutala Lokam, that is one of the regions in Patala. So it is said that Mahabali rules there till date. Mahabali is one of the Chiranjeevis. Sapta Chiranjeevis, including Markandeya, it becomes Ashta Chiranjeevis. Okay. Mahabali, Vyasaha, and so on. So this is the story of Vaman Avatar, one of those avatars which is very much related to human life and how till date you can consider, which is very much related because it shows the way how like Mahabali also behaved similarly. We human beings also at times we need someone to maybe correct us. Now all this is written in the commentaries that are there, wherein now, just the story of Vaman Avataram, all of us know, but how we interpret from that, how it is related to our lives is just as now you have a relationship, or you can say a mother and son, right? Now, son does something wrong, the mother initially she might maybe tell him in a good way also. The child doesn't listen, right? So the mother shouts at the child, or maybe mother hits the child, something like that, just gives him a slap or something like that. This doesn't mean that the mother is evil, but in order to show the son the right path, at that time, maybe that scolding or a slap, whatever it is, that is very much necessary because the child learns and it comes to know, it realizes that next time, if I do the same thing, I'm going to get a scolding or whatever. Right? So the mother is not evil, but she knows where she has to show her anger or whatever it is. The same thing here also through Vaman Avatara, the Lord tries to show, wherein he says that he tries to show to the world that every time you take a violent action, that's not necessary. But at the same time, it's very important to teach a lesson to the opposite person and make the person realize his mistake. Once the child realizes, similarly, just as once the child realizes his mistake, mother also showers her love. Similarly, her Vamana, once Mahabali realizes his mistake, he gives him a boon, makes him the leader or king head of Sutala Lokam in Patala. Please note, Swargaloka, heaven has got 7 parts, Brahmalokam, Indralokam, and so on. Similarly, Patalam also has got 7 parts, Vitala, Sutala, Rasatala, Talatala, and so on. So, though we commonly say Swarga and Patala, Swarga is 7, Patala is also 7. So, 14 regions in all, and in between is Prithvi. Next is you have the story of Yamadharmaraja that has been elaborated here. How Dharmaraja he takes care. So, he like an accountant. Now, there are any CAs also. This month, all of you will be very busy, right? Audit, this, that. Similarly, Yamadharma Raja also has got Chitraketu with him, who is his accountant. What does he account? What does he audit? Is each one's, he tallies each one's good karma and bad karma. Depending on that, Yamaraja and Chitraketu tells Yamaraja whom we should bring to Yamalokam, whom we should keep in Bhulokam, or you send to Swargalokam. So, depending on one's karma, that is calculated. How it is calculated is you do something good, it goes in your good credit. Similarly, you do something bad, it gets in your bad credit. But we have something called prayashchit, right? That is like in the case of Mahabali. He did something wrong, but he realized, okay, and he accepted his mistake and he did something to improve. He surrendered to the Lord. Similarly, at times we also realize that, oh, I went wrong, but we can improve on that. So then, little maybe you can say to some extent, whatever we do wrong, that reduces. So again, Chitraketu, he makes a law. So like this, there are different things that are done. This is the story of Yamadharmaraja. Then I think the rituals of Shraddha Karma I had elaborated last time and we had discussed that in detail. So and also the Varnashrama Dharmas. So here what happens is the Lord, be it Lord Krishna and the Gita, how he highlights, or the Varna Ashrama Dharmas that are there, they are related to every stage in life and every age of life that is there, and it's nowhere related to some section, specific section of the society alone. So basically, if you see, Narada Puranam is generalist in nature. It talks about various topics under one roof, so it will give you little bit information of everything. So this is Narada Puranam. Okay, could everyone follow Narada Puranam? Yes. Okay. Next is Markandeya. Now, Markandeya Puranam also is a bit generalistic. It talks about, you can say, some aspects that are there. Now, one is some stories related to Vishnu and Brahma are told. What is told about Brahma is mainly the story of Pushkar that is there. So the pilgrimage spot Pushkar, which is the only Brahma temple in Bharatadesha, Rajasthan, in the state of Rajasthan, where Brahma is worshipped. Apart from that, you see, usually none of us also do you worship Brahma. We don't do that. Right? We don't even have an image of Brahma, or there is no even not a practice of even worshipping Brahma, right? Nobody worships Indra, Brahma, and so on. So it's not like we should not worship, but they fall in the category of, you can say, not exactly demigods, but not the first category, like Vishnu, Shiva, their avatars, the goddess, and so on. So all other gods, usually when we pray during the Navagraha stotras or something like that, or during other rituals that are there, we pray, especially the Vedas. They talk about all Indra, Varuna, and so on. Why so? Because in the Rigvedic times, people used to worship nature then. So at that time, we didn't have even the concept of, okay, this is Vishnu, this is Krishna, this is Rama, this is how they look. We didn't even have this concept. So people used to worship what they saw around them. They saw, okay, water is falling, rain is falling from the sky, water is useful to me, I should be thankful to the rain god. So that is Indra. Similarly, trees they saw around them, okay, trees give me fruits, trees give me flowers, trees give me food. Let me start worshipping trees. So that's how whatever things which people could see around them and they felt that it benefited them, they started worshipping them. But later on, when the concept of, you can say, idol worship, different avatars started, our way of worship also started changing. So you have stories of Brahma that is there. The most famous story is the curse which Brahma gets. Brahma and Vishnu have a friendly argument amongst themselves to find out the end of a Shivalinga. Now, what is a Shivalinga? Shiva was emitting a lot of fire, energy, fire, and it did not have any end as such. So it was going up in the heaven and going down deeper into Patal Loka. That's when both of them had a challenge that let's find out the end of this ray of light or fire that is there. Now, Brahma said, okay, I'll sit on my Hamsa, I'll sit on my swan and fly up in the sky. Vishnu says, I'll take up a Varaha Avataram, I'll dig down deep in the ground, let me see. Varaha, Vishnu in the form of Varaha, he sits down, he goes down and he starts digging the ground and sees for himself, but he could not find the end at all. That where the ray of fire actually ends, he comes back, he accepts, saying that no, I could not find, I don't know what it is. But Brahma also, he could not actually find the end of the ray of fire. But now, even if you cannot find to accept something, it's very difficult. So he comes down and he lies saying that, yes, I found. Shiva gets very angry. He gets a curse saying that you will not be worshipped at all. But later he realizes little bit of negotiation. After some negotiation, there'll be only one place where you will be worshipped. That is nothing but in Pushkar, Rajasthan today. So that's become a very important pilgrimage place in Bharatadesha. People take a bath in the Pushkara Sarovaram and so on. Yeah, Pushkar Mela that we see. So this is a story of Brahma. Stories of Vishnu that are there, the different avatars of Vishnu, like again Vamana Avatara, Varaha Avatara, and so on. You also have the story of Dattatreya, how the Trimurti Lord was born to Atri and Anasuya. That story is mentioned in detail. Here again you have some more elaboration, further elaboration of Varnashrama Dharmas. Now this topic of Varnashrama Dharmas is discussed in various Puranas. So for every, you can say every stage in life, what are the duties? Like for example, in a student life, what should one do? Brahmacharya ashrama. So the main thing, or you can say the main responsibility is studying well or whatever, gaining knowledge and so on. Next is grihastha dharma, fetching for your family, settling in life. Next is vanaprastash, vanaprastash, vanaprastha ashrama dharma. That's where slowly you start retiring in life. Again, it doesn't mean to give up completely, but slowly we start retiring. Right? It's not that one fine day I give up everything and go away. And finally, sannyasa ashrama. So that is when total retirement. Now here, if you see, now some things, if you now how again these things are relatable is you should not think and feel that all this is related only for sages or for kings who actually went to the forest. Like Vanaprastha when we say, does it mean that I have to go and set out in the forest today? All these things are even related to our everyday life. Roughly, if I explain, 1 to 25, you say 100 is the average lifespan of human beings. You divide it into four parts. So 25, 1 to 25 student life, right? So fully you dedicate only in gaining knowledge or like all student duties that are there. That's when children used to go to the Gurukula then. Today, of course, we go to schools, colleges, and so on. Next is Grihastha Dharma. So roughly from 25 to 50 you can consider. So during this period what happens is totally it is you get married, you settle in life, you beget children, you fetch for them and so on. Next is roughly from about 51 to 75 you can consider. Slowly we start retiring. It's not, though we have an age of 60 officially for retirement, slowly after 50, 51 or so 55 you can consider. Slowly, though we are working, you work somewhere and so on, little bit responsibilities of course start ending, right? Maybe the same things that you were doing at 25, you are not doing that now. Maybe your children are grown up and so on. So some responsibilities slowly start, you can say, reducing. Maybe at the age of 40 or 30, maybe you were, for each and everything that your child was doing, you had to monitor what you're doing, what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're studying. Maybe the same thing at the age of 50 or 55, the child can do the same by itself. Wherever it wants, it goes, it comes, and so on. So little bit slowly our responsibilities start reducing. But till the age of 75. Finally, you know, okay, now I've done everything in life, now I have to settle a bit. Lastly, 75 to 100, that is there. All your responsibilities are done. Maybe your kids are also settled now. Now, the last part of your life, you just have to, you can say slowly, sannyas ashrama. Those times, people, when they go to the forest, they used to maybe live in ashramas also, so that totally you dedicate your life to maybe chanting the names of the god, this and that, and so on, or maybe keeping your mind positive. But then, now in today's times, how can, so this is how lifespan you can say is divided into four parts. So 25 into 400. But now, one thing we have to note is, does it mean that only after 75 or so I remember God or do say things like that? Or it doesn't mean that only 1 to 25 student life, should I not learn that later? It's not like that. But everything has to start at the right time. 1 to 25 is student life, totally you dedicate your time there. That doesn't mean that you cannot learn something at the age of 40. But what you can definitely learn, but only if some time you have in hand then. 20 to 50 is for grihastha, that is taking care of your family, settling in life, and maybe other responsibilities, you know, earning this, that, and so on. Leaving all that aside, no, I cannot take care of my child because I have to study. I cannot fetch for my family because I have to study. What do then initially? This is wrong. So at that particular age, at that particular stage that is there, we have to fully concentrate on that age responsibilities or duties that we have. Similarly, 51 to 75, we are almost close to grandparents now. Still, they know my son is doing this, my son is doing that, my grandson. The same thing Adi Shankaracharya highlights in Bhaja Govind. बालस्तावत् क्रीडासक्तः तरुणस्तावत् तरुणीसक्तः वृद्धस्तावत् चिन्तासक्तः परसे ब्रह्मणि कोऽपि न सक्तः. He says entire childhood you waste in childhood things, running about here and there, playing around. Tarunastavat tarunīsaktah. Young age goes about in passion, attraction. I want to do this, I want to do that. There's a lot of excitement. Vriddhastavat chintasaktaha. Now, once we realize, oh, after the age of 60, I will start, I have a lot of time. You see, for most of you might be, you can say in your 50s, 60s or so, you'll see things don't happen always the way that we plan, right? At the age of 60, you start something new, it becomes very difficult. Why? For 60 years of life, I didn't do this at all. I'm hearing this for the first time. It's not impossible, but it becomes difficult. So the same thing if you start, like for example, even sannyas ashrama after 75 will do something. There is no guarantee whether you live till 75. Right? So maybe little time more you can dedicate at that time. That is only a difference, but that doesn't mean that you start something then. Similarly, student life also 1 to 25 student life. It doesn't mean that you don't study later, but time will be less. 1 to 25 is totally for brahmacharya ashrama student life. That is there. Similarly, grihastha ashrama 25 to 50 family life. Later also you're going to maintain relationships. Nobody told you to run away from that. But now in those times, why then kings used to go to the forest? Because they had settled, they had many children, many wives and so on. Their lifespan was also big. So therefore, with along with their wives, they used to go and they used to live in the forest also. It doesn't mean that they just give up everything one fine day, I'm going. So why I gave you this explanation is we have to always interpret things in the right way. There will be fools who argue on these points, saying that who said this, how come only for, and Brahmacharya Ashrama, first of all, is not, you can say, a celibate life and so on. This Brahmacharya Ashrama is nothing but when the Upanayana Samskara is done for a boy. In those times, even girls also used to have, but then they used to not marry and get into the family way and so on. Like we have scholars like Gargi, Maitreyi, Lopamudra of the Rigvedic times. So when the child goes to the Gurukula also, that's why it was called Brahmacharya Ashrama. So totally focuses on learning, studying, gaining knowledge, only that. So it doesn't mean that okay, I am now 75 or so, I forget my relationships and so on. Nobody told you to do that, but little focus should reduce. The same thing that I was worrying, oh, now all these years I was worrying for my son, now I'm worrying for my grandson. What will your son do then? Let him worry little, right? Doesn't mean you don't care for your grandson, but slowly we have to withdraw a bit. This is what is explained in detail in the Markandeya Puranam also. So whatever I told you something which is relatable to our lives, but this is same is mentioned in detail in the Markandeya Purana when it talks about this Varnashrama dharmas. Next is you have different forms of marriage. Like for example, we have Gandharva Vivaham, or there are different ways in which Vivaham is done. Now, usually today's society, if you see how is marriage being done, is the girl's family. Now in today's times again things have changed, right? So usually things are equal and so on. But there were certain methods wherein now, even till date, also we have the paternal system. So, wherein the girl goes to the groom's house, then the girl will have some gifts that she gives. The boy also they have some jewels, this and that are exchanged. So, this is the common way of wedding or a marriage that we have in today's society. But there are different ways of marriage. Like, for example, Swayamvaraha, meaning to choose one's own groom that is there. Now, though we say Sita Swayamvaram, it is, and also other Swayamvaras like Draupadi Swayamvaram and so on, there were certain conditions which were set by the king. Like, for example, be it Drupada or be it even Janaka for that matter, one who breaks the Shivadhanusham, he will marry my daughter. So, as such, Swayamvaraha meaning to choose one's own group. So, a very simple method of Swayamvara used to be, you can say, a group of princes used to be invited to the kingdom on whosoever neck the princess who's there, she puts the garland, that man will become the groom of that princess. So wherein she had an option to choose directly. This was one way of Swayamvara. Another method was to keep such conditions also. Like Janaka had kept one who breaks the Shivadhanusha. Next is now why he had kept this is because Sita could do that. Sita could lift the Shivadhanasham, she could move about here and there, she used to play with it. So Shivadhanusham, Shiva's bow was very strong. So Janaka wanted someone who was equal to Sita. That's why he kept this condition. Similarly, in the case of Draupadi, also one who hits the eye of the fish by looking at its reflection in water. That's how that was a condition which Draupadi's father, had kept. Arjuna wins, and that's how Draupadi Swayamvaram used to take place. So this is one form of Swayamvara. Then there are also the Rakshasa Vivaham and such forms that are there, wherein forcefully abduction takes place of the girl and so on, or maybe forcefully abduction, or you can say the woman or the girl, she's given something, she's made unconscious and suddenly she's taken away by the groom and such things that are done. So these are all Rakshasa Vivaham which takes place. And then Deva Vivaham, like this different categories are told what are their rituals and so on. So in today's times also you see different forms like a court marriage also, or the normal way of rituals that we do. So, of course, depending on the area where we live, depending on the state and the culture that we follow, customs can differ, but the way of marriage still remains the same. Next is you have different kinds of food, vegetarian, non-vegetarian food that is highlighted in the Puranas. So, as I told you, different the subject matter of the Puranas is general, right? So, it will also talk about these things. Now, again, let's not get into the controversy of is vegetarian food good or non-vegetarian food good. I don't think anyone consumes non-vegetarian food here, but that's a different topic of discussion altogether. But a very simple thing is consuming sattvic food without killing any other organism also. Now, even in vegetarian food also like that, some people will argue you're killing plants, they are also living beings, and maybe you're consuming something from the cow or so on, but they don't know the reasons behind that. We don't remove the milk from the cow's udder, the cow has to suffer a lot. That's why the milk has to be removed. Similarly, plants also, when they give us fruits, this and that, If that is not taken, then human beings cannot survive, right? So the bare minimum that we need to survive, we have to. And even I think those who consume these, what do you call that? Vegan, right? I think what is that? Vegan is what? Plant based. You don't consume anything from animals, right? So that is this milk products and so on also. So like this, there are different things wherein if you have to argue on different aspects, arguments do take place, but these are all basic things which we cannot avoid, right? Like plant-based food or something, we cannot avoid that. That is the bare minimum which we need. But purposely killing a creature also and then eating it is something which should not be done humanly. But again, then why did this concept of non-vegetarian food even start? Who consumed it first? Anyone has this answer? Why did people start consuming non-vegetarian food? You had plants right from the beginning, right? Why it started? No idea. Why? So to this can be one thing, but that doesn't mean that even vegetarians are also strong, right? Or maybe the other way around also. So it's not only for physical strength. That is one reason that you can say. Lord Rama had not consumed. So that Valmiki Ramayanam controversy that is there, it is nowhere it is mentioned that Lord Rama consumed. But it is mentioned, what is mentioned is Lord Rama went out for hunting and so on, but that doesn't mean that he consumed non-vegetarian. That is never mentioned anywhere as clearly, or even the Shabari Moksha incident that we have. He said she ate and she offered, right? So what we took it, we interpreted that she ate and the same thing from her mouth she gave it to Rama. Thing was she tasted and then whatever she felt good, the remaining, like we also, you go to a fruit seller, if you like a bunch of grapes also, you have a few things, one or two pieces you eat, you like it, then you buy. That doesn't mean that what you ate the same thing you put in your bag, right? You don't remove it from your mouth and the same thing. Similarly, in the case of Rama also, nowhere it is mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana that Rama ate non-veg and things like that. He hunted animals, this and that, as per Kshatriyas, that they do as per their dharma, because they have to live in the forest, they have to safeguard themselves. So meat was there, everything is there that is mentioned. Nowhere it is mentioned that he ate that. So just because you hunt something doesn't mean you eat. Of course, that is a different topic altogether. So Markandeya Puranam also talks about these few points. And again, coming to the question of why this non-vegetarian food concept even came in, why till date people consume and so on, it is because again now, if now today we live in village, town, cities and so on, we have good food that comes to us maybe from crops, things like that. But there were few people, maybe they that like the tribal community also, though they lived in the forest, you have trees there. But now not all trees bear fruits, right? There are some trees which we call like we don't even go near them, right? We have thorns and so on. So to survive, when now when a person feels hungry, you see, even now all of us also, say it is lunchtime, dinner time, but you don't have food in the house. At that time, what we do, whatever comes to our hand, we eat, right? It can be even biscuits or usually we don't eat at that time, but if there is nothing and you're feeling hungry, we do we don't eat that, right? We end up eating anything because for us hunger is important, that is getting satisfied, let me eat anything. So similarly, like these tribal communities who are there, their main occupation, the main way of life is hunting animals. What they will do after hunting animals is to end up consuming, right? So such things are done. So depending on the situation there, they ended up consuming things. For in the forest I don't get anything, but I have to fill my stomach, so you end up killing animals and then you start consuming that. But the same logic, if a person living in the city also tells, it's oh no no no, this is now this, the same people who are tribals also later, or people living in such rural areas, slowly development started taking place. We all started moving from one place to another of the same person, and that's how even the food practices also passed on. Now, if we compare and say that no, my ancestors were eating, I should also eat it. Why they used to even why they even consume this? They have a different logic for that. Today, you live in cities, you have all kinds of food that is available. Still, purposely you go about eating. This is something which is, you know, Like it's everyone's personal choice, but still the logic is, well, like, there is no answer for this. It is something which is wrong, we can consider. So what about this also? It has been mentioned in detail: vegetarian, non-vegetarian food, and so on. Next is you have the worship of goddess Parashakti that has been mentioned here. Some methods of doing, like when we do the Navratri Puja or Gauri Puja, which is I think especially done in Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, done in the month of December, November, I'm not very sure. Gauri Puja that is done. Also the certain pujas in praise of goddess Mahalakshmi Puja, or during the Rahu Kala time we worship goddess Durga. So such things, different ways of worshipping goddess Adi Shakti that has been mentioned in this Purana. Next you have Yoga Shastram. The Markandeya Purana is known for Yoga Shastram. Yoga Shastram is Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yogam Yama Niyamadi Niyamas. Yama Niyama Asana Pratyaya pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, samadhi, and so on. So the different stages of yoga. So initially it starts with yama. Yama is nothing but yama, niyama, and so on. So having a control. Next is niyama, following certain rules. Pranayama, certain breathing that we do. Pratyahara. Then finally meditation and so on. So this is like a stage, everyday stage, stage by stage, you can, like a step by step procedure. Directly it cannot lead you to samadhi. Now it is said that even out of these Ashtanga yogas also, it is very difficult to practice even one niyama, even one part properly. Why so? Now say there are certain rules. Certain someone tells you go to a dietitian also. They will tell you, okay, you want to do a particular diet. Every day you eat this, you eat this. They'll tell you, right? Morning you eat, afternoon, night, and so on. So for most of us, I'm not saying everyone, but for most of us, maybe on the first day we do, second day we do. 3 4 days later, it becomes very difficult, right? We start feeling hungry and we feel, no, I cannot do this, I cannot follow this, and so on. Why it happens this way is, yeah, so why it happens this way is because we are not used to that. Every day we are used to consuming food, that to a fulfilled meal, and so on. So it becomes difficult for us to follow, and finally those niyamas we give. Or say for example, even you live about in a society also, then there are certain rules that we follow, right? Like maybe it can be you go about in the road, you break a signal, this and that. We know that it is a rule, but how far do all of us follow? We don't do that, correct? So such things that are there, it becomes very difficult all through your life. It's not just for a span of few days. Even these diet and things like that that people do, it's only for a few days. Or the it's like the New Year resolution that most of us have, going to the gym on the first day. How many days you actually go? That is the answer. By the year end, you know how many days you went, right? So these are all things that are there, which Patanjali and many scholars only mention that, and even Bhattatri also mentions in Narayana Yamdashakam 4. Out of the Ashtanga Yoga Paddhatis, that 8 different methods of yoga, even if you practice one properly, that is also more than enough. That also is very difficult actually. Then it goes to the state of samadhi that is there. So some people will say, what is samadhi? You just sit and suddenly life goes away. It's not like that. When yogis or sages, when they say that they attain samadhi, they have practiced this Ashtanga Yoga Paddhati. Samadhi is nothing but the prana that is there, life inside us. It passes about, moves out through the head. This is the topmost part. You can see, like, especially in the case of young kids also, next time if you notice, you touch the top of their head, the central part of their head will always be very hot. Now, why hot? Because that is the storehouse of energy. All of us also. That's why we should never hit the head of anyone, right? Our brain and so on. Why so many people have this brain problems? Some bleeding, this and that takes place. Usually it becomes very serious, right? Because brain or the head part that is there is very, very crucial. That's why maybe as kids also when they fight, sometimes they hit each other, right? So usually they will say, no, don't hit on the head and so on. So head is something which is very, very, you can say it can affect your entire body. If our mind doesn't work properly, our entire body is affected, right? So that is the reason, because the head is the storehouse of energy. You have the chakra there, the topmost chakra, wherein the prana actually goes out. Even when a person dies, also, we feel that the heart stops pumping, heart stops breathing, and so on. But the life that is there inside us, it actually passes on through the topmost part, head of our body. That's where life flows. Only difference is we don't come to it. We cannot see. Even the person who dies doesn't realize that. That's it. In fact, when we talk about Garuda Puranam and also the previous Narada Puranam also talks that just as the process of birth that is there takes time. We know about 9 months and so on. Of course, a procedure. Death, we feel that it takes place in a few minutes. We say that suddenly you were sitting, life passed away. It is not at all so. The process starts from before. That's when you see certain old people, they will tell you that maybe I'll not live long later. And sometimes we make such statements, right? So he was telling that some, I mean, I felt maybe for the past 1 2 months only slowly, maybe people start forgetting or they don't know what they're doing. They'll not know whether it is morning, night, and so on. Such things when you notice in people, and then the person dies, we tell, right? No, for the past 1 2 months only slowly things are, he didn't know something and so on. So we come to know due to old age also, and finally the person dies. These are external signs, but internally the body has started showing slowly one by one the part. We say organ failure and things like that, right? For each and every human being, even if it is a natural death, the process already starts from inside. Only difference is we don't come to know. So it is said that when we talk about the experience of death, and secondly, nobody has experienced death, right? What is the process of death? Birth, mothers, here you have experienced what is birth, right? You know how birth takes place, so much you have to undergo this, that, and so on. Why so? You have experienced, so you can explain. But death, who has experienced death? We know, okay, in death what happens, life goes away. But nobody has experienced. We are not allowed to tell our experience, right? But it is mentioned that even the process of death also is very, very difficult. Just as giving birth, while giving birth, the Vedana that we feel, the pain that is there, more than that is a pain when life goes away, it seems. It seems as if people are hitting you with swords also. That is the amount of pain that takes place when life comes. So, maybe quite disturbing when you hear to all this, but this is the truth that is there. So, even when the prana has to actually go, when life has to come out of the body, it's a very painful process. Though we say the person just passed away very peacefully in seconds. Peacefully is fine to write down, but what the pain which the person has endured is very, very dangerous. It is painful. It's just that the person is not allowed to tell you that it's a painful process. That's it. So, because just as it takes time, 9 months or 12 months, whatever you say, for all the organs to develop into life and life to come inside, similarly, for life to go out also, it's a process. Slowly, all the organs will stop withering. Slowly, they'll stop functioning. It's not magic at all. Okay, suddenly, for birth, it takes so much time. Death happens in few seconds. It is not so. The process already starts, only that we are not able to experience that and tell that to others. We don't know what's happening internally. Slowly, one by one, all organs stop working, and that's when finally life has to go out. And then life and prana goes out. It's a very painful process, it seems. The person who is, that's why people gasp for breath, right? You would have seen, if you've seen someone dying also, see, actually people gasp for breath. That's because the process has started from within. Prana is passing out from the topmost part of the head. So this is nothing but the last stage of yogis. So in the case of us, why human beings we gasp for breath, or you see creatures, why? Because we cannot we don't have the power or strength to withstand or withheld, what you say, uh, to suffer or to bear that pain that is there. But in the case of yogis also, because they have practiced all these Ashtanga Yoga Paddhatis, that's why they have that power. That's why they are very still when they sit. We feel that the person is meditating also very nicely, the prana, very peacefully, the prana goes out. And that's when we say the Samadhi state. So it becomes very difficult to do this. But these are the different methods or spiritual practices that are mentioned in yoga. Now the Markandeya Purana says there are some dangers also. If you don't do things properly, then it is going to be very, very dangerous. So you be careful when you do. Like some people, I'll give you a very simple example. Even physical yoga, Hatha yoga that we do. If you do it over, like if you do it maybe more than what you can, now each one's capacity here is different. Like some people go on walks also. Some people will have the capacity of say walking for 10 minutes. Someone will say half an hour. Someone will say 1 hour. But beyond this, there is the person who can walk for say 10 minutes. If he ends up walking for 1 hour, obviously it's not going to suit him, right? He's going to be very tired, or maybe he'll faint and fall, something like that. His body will react because the person is not used to. But still, if you keep pushing yourself, now say for example, you have a habit of walking 10 minutes per day. If you want to increase that to 1 hour, the immediate next day, every day you're walking for 10 minutes, immediately one fine day you walk for 1 hour, obviously it's not going to suit your body, you're going to faint and fall. So how you increases, maybe from 10 you make it 15, then from 15 you make it 25, 25 slowly 30 and so on, right? So the process should always be slow. If dangerously, if we handle something, it is going to affect us. Same as in yoga also. That's why initially all of us practice hatha yoga, physical yoga, because to have a control on our internal state, internal mind, and so on, we have to first have a control, or you can say flexibility of our physical body. Because only if our physical body is fit, we can concentrate inside. That's why even if you have a small headache, can we concentrate on anything? Nothing. My head is paining, leg is paining, hand is paining, full day is gone, we cannot do anything. Why? Because health or physical body is also very, very important. Only if our physical body is important, we can function. My leg is paining, hand is paining, head is paining, I don't feel like getting up, everything is useless, day is gone. Right? So therefore, that's why you have the first stage of yogas, hatha yoga, physical asanas. Most of us, we go to yoga classes. Why? To have a control on our physical body. Next stage is dhyana. So directly if someone sits for meditation also, it is, we cannot do, right? How much ever we do, even if we practice hatha yoga, this and that also, it becomes very difficult to meditate. Why? Because our mind is not in control. Right? You close your eyes for 5 minutes, 10,000 thoughts come to our mind. Right? This is human nature. It's not that it is something wrong also. But slowly and steadily, only when we start practicing different, be it the Ashtanga Yoga niyamas that are there, or Hatha Yoga, physical asanas and so on. So on, finally and slowly the mind comes under our control, and that's when the stage or the process is very, very difficult. Just 1 second, hold on.